Okay, so I'm super excited, not only because this is the first podcast that we're recording, but because we got a really interesting guest today for our first one. The guy that we have here is Mitchell DeGuzman. He is a professional MC. Mitch, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, David. Yeah, not MC like a rapper, but more like a microphone controller.
Is that what it stands for?
Yeah. Actually, even like hip hop, I think microphone controller, moving the crowd. You know, there's a lot of meanings for it, but yeah, no, I'm a wedding MC, so that's what I do every weekend. When I tell people I do weddings, they're like, "What do you mean? Like, are you coordinator or not a DJ? Like the one on the mic, getting to hype up everyone?"
Yeah. So, we did talk yesterday. And you were saying that you even did parties too. So that's why I was thinking, I don't want to label you so much just a wedding, but we'll probably tailor this conversation to weddings because that's probably your specialty.
Yeah. I did a few holiday parties like last year. I only had one this year, but 60 weddings this year. Definitely in that niche. Yeah.
So let's get into it. So you just said kind of what you do. Let's kind of start from the beginning. So when you go in to a wedding, how do you go about finding them?
Thank God, like social media has really helped me. Instagram, that's the main platform. Yeah, there's Yelp and Wedding Wire reviews, the Knot reviews, those wedding websites. But Instagram is the main one where I put out little bits and pieces of content, and brides and grooms are like, yeah, I want that. Like, I haven't seen someone else with that energy at a wedding. I want to hire you. So that's mainly it. But from the beginning, theater major at LMU, you know, loved acting. So when I got hired at the radio station, I was working at Movin' 93.9, then Power 106. They gave me a mic and they're like, just say whatever you want. I'm like, cool, I don't have to memorize lines from a play. I can just say whatever I want. This is so easy. So that came very easily to me, just to be in front of people, talk to them. And I just had fun, you know.
So because I remember watching you with Power 106. That's probably the one that I remember the most.
Yeah.
Was at Power 106, and you're going to all these different events. You're hyping out people, things that I couldn't do, man. But like, how did you transition from doing that into going to weddings? Because like now you're like this successful wedding MC.
Yeah, man, the transition. Well, Power really helped me and prepared me for anything, because I was on the street team, so anything from giving out $5 coupons for Pepsi for a 12-pack inside of Ralph's to a movie premiere. Those were like the spectrum of events I was working. Basketball games with the high schools, hyping up kids. So it was really cool, like hyping up kids. Then you do like higher end events. And so when I left Power, I got hit up by DJ Rex at the time. He was like, hey, have you ever done weddings? And I was like, yeah, I've done a couple before. And he's like, let's try this. So then I started doing more weddings with him. So 6 years later, we're still doing a bunch of weddings together. And that really opened up my eyes to like, wow, in this one wedding, I can make as much money as I was in 2 weeks at the radio station. Because my job, like, let's be real, it was like minimum wage. And
which I didn't know that, but
it was like 5 hours a night, because you're only there for a show, so you don't even have a full 8-hour shift.
Yeah.
And then when I was doing a wedding, I was like, wow, this is great. But at the time too, I was younger mentality in terms of I was happy with just getting that amount of money and having a good time, getting free food, you know, having some drinks.
It's like a party all the time,
social
man.
life, you know. Let's be honest, like I would meet a girl here or there sometimes, and just like, even if you befriend them or you date them, but it was like the social aspect of it. I was just so excited to be a part of it. Yeah. You know, I've barely been to weddings even before I started being a wedding MC. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. So you transitioned from Power 106 into doing weddings, and that's like kind of your full thing. And you kind of, you brought up DJ Rex. And
yeah.
How important was that to go into it with someone that's already in the industry, especially with that, because people are probably generally looking for the DJ first,
Exactly.
and then to have a team. So how important was that?
He was definitely established in it, and he's really smart with social media and business. He owned a clothing line that was very successful. He was part owner. So he definitely helped in promoting me. There was times at the beginning where people didn't know about me. So a selling point was telling people he works for Power 106, but I was like, no, don't tell them that, because I don't even work there anymore. Recently, some guy came up to me. He's like, oh, you work for Power 106, but he just remembered I used to work there. But I was like, I want people to start hiring me for me. And at the time, I wasn't really vlogging my weddings. I wasn't posting too much on social media. I always saw wedding MCs as kind of corny because, for instance, I had an Uber driver take me to a wedding recently, and he was like, hey, yeah, I used to MC a little back in the day. He was like, can I hear your wedding MC voice? And I was like, I just talk to people. What's your MC Mitchell? And I was like, no, I just go with Mitchell. Like, you don't have to tag that, like DJ Rex or you DJ. It sounds cool.
I don't even know what his first name is.
Rainey.
Yeah.
His middle name is Rex.
Okay. Yeah. It's just funny that you go by. That's just what you go by then after a while. But yeah, you just go by Mitchell.
It's just your name. There's no moniker. There's no nickname. I just go by Mitchell. But I found it so funny that old school mentality of having a voice like Mr. and Mrs. Like, I'm like, yo, we all have a cool version of our voice, our normal version of our voice, organic. And if you can find that in your energy, that's what sells it.
Yeah.
But I am lucky. Like Skrillex, I know I'm going on a tangent, but I watched this video of like how he produces, and he's like, your head's an instrument, and the way everything is, your trachea, your esophagus, the shape of your skull, the shape of the inside of your mouth, it's like a guitar. It's hollow. I think I've been blessed with a pleasant enough sounding voice as well, because I've heard other MCs that are good energy, but the pitchiness or like it's not very pleasant to the ears. So I'm like, thank God that I like my own voice. I'm a fan of my own voice, but I'm not like, I'm gonna change it a little more to sound cool. No, I'm just like, it's cool, Yeah,
and I also think like when you start changing things, because I think we all have that, you turn on and off a different personality sometimes based on what you got to do. But I think in your situation, I think what sells you a lot is your authenticity and the fact like you are who you are. So I know you right now. It's Mitchell, but like Mitchell is just like a higher level at a wedding. It's still Mitchell though, which I think is really good.
I get what you're saying. Yes, because honestly in my everyday life, I can be very boring. Like I shut down. There's like 2 or 3 weddings this weekend, and I'm like, I don't want to hear the radio. I don't want to hear loud music. I want to be as quiet as possible, and I just want to unplug. But yeah, man, like I think on social media, on whatever platform, whether it's one-on-one, I try to be authentic. On social media, I try to be authentic. Sometimes I'm a little too open. I think that's a flaw. It could be a strength, but also a flaw. But yeah, at the weddings, I think what surprises people, I think some people, to get others excited, they feel like they have to push. And you can tell if someone's not like that all the time, it's a little fake. But with me, I guess what influenced me as a kid, my mom was always excited about our birthdays, about holidays, about any special event. And she used a lot of gesticulations. And I think I got that from her, where it's like, I'm really excited to be here. I'm really excited to celebrate this wedding. I'm like, it's unbelievable, David. I'm like, these people have never met me. They probably saw me on social media. They hired me. But 90% of the brides and grooms I'm meeting that day in person. And so like, it's just exciting. I get to be in such an intimate moment of their life, and I've never met them before. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think back to my wedding. It's probably the top 3 best moments of my life. I have 2 children, so it makes the top 3. But it's such a special day in everyone's life, and you get to. I think that's one of the cool things about your job is the fact that you're a part of that, and like forever, they can remember. Mitchell made my day, or was a part of my day, and stuff like that. A question though that I have here, kind of leading into that, is I felt like as the bride or the groom, it's special because it's your day. You celebrate that day now, 2-3 times a week. Does it ever lose like
the gravitas?
Yeah.
Do I get desensitized?
Yeah.
Sometimes, but also in a good way. I feel like, let's say 60 weddings this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say I only had, if I did this as a side hobby and I had 5 weddings or 10 weddings in the year, when it came to that weekend, I'd probably be sweating. I'd be nervous. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I gotta make this really good. Maybe I'm trying to build to have more weddings. If I put it on such a pedestal, then I think I would try too hard, or I'd be more nervous and not as relaxed. It would not be as good.
Yeah.
The fact that I have so many and it's consistent, and I'm always in the gym, consistently working out for a wedding, when it gets to it, sometimes it's just another day.
Yeah.
There's days where I'm getting ready for the wedding and I'll tell my girlfriend or my brother, maybe we're out because it's a late call time, like 4 or 5 p.m. and I'm out doing something fun with friends. I'm like, it really doesn't feel like I have a wedding today. I'm like, I got to start revving up the engine. But that's good because when I get there, I'm just relaxed. Yeah. When you're relaxed, like anything, acting or hosting, that's when you do your best work.
Yeah. Let's talk about kind of the job itself, because some people look at it and be like, your job is you go to a wedding, and we'll talk about exactly what you do, but you go into your wedding, that's pretty much your job. But I don't think it's as easy as that. So, like, let's say you have a wedding on Friday, you have a wedding on Saturday, Sunday, whatever it may be, because I guess that's probably going to be the main things. What goes into leading up to it? So, Monday through Thursday.
The only thing on my end, I know for the DJ, whoever it is, whether it's Rex or another DJ, they have to definitely go over the timeline with the coordinator and the bride and groom, because there's specific music cues. For me, I can get the timeline the day of, and be good to go, just because I've done it so often. But the one thing I do have to talk with the bride and or groom the week of before is going over the names.
Yeah.
So now I'm used to like different types of last names, different ethnicities, how you say them, but there's still some that are pretty hard to say. I'm lucky when the last name is a hard one, but it's in the wedding party. I'm like, okay, like I always try my best.
Yeah.
And I'll go over the names with them, and it's like a song. Sometimes
do you ask them? Like, do you ask the wedding party people if you have the opportunity to? How do you pronounce that name? Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So not only will I go over it with the bride and groom, but the day of when I line them up, it's your name. So the bride and groom can even be getting it wrong for years, and then they'll say it. And I've heard brides and grooms say before, they're like, "Oh, I always thought you said your last name this way." So you have to hear it from the source.
Yeah.
Like my last name is technically DeGuzman, but I say DeGuzman.
Kind of like me. Like my name is Orta.
Orta.
But I say Orta because everyone's called me Orta forever.
Right.
It's like there's no D in my name, but it's kind of like you said, you kind of get it from the source.
Yeah. So not only is there a right way of saying the name, but the person who owns the name, exactly. So when it's the bride and groom's last name, man, I've done like 300 weddings now.
Okay.
Probably got 2 wrong. The first one was because the coordinator, they didn't have a wedding party. The coordinator was like, they're ready to go. Just do the last name. I was like, how do you say it? She told me, never ask someone else what their last name is.
It's on you.
Yes. So the coordinator told me, I remember it was at Castaway in Burbank, And I said the last name, and after they came in, the groom whispered in my ear, it's actually blah, blah, blah. And I was like, damn it. I was like, oh, it's like some hard German last name.
Yeah.
And then the other one recently, Elizararaz, I thought it was like Elizararaz or Elizararaz, but it was like Elizararaz. I was like, I got it, but like passively the groom, the best man and another guy, they were saying the last name, it's this way, get it right. And I was like, in front of everyone, they're passively telling the MC like you're saying it wrong. I was like, thanks, bro.
I couldn't even go into your career just because of the fact that I have a hard time just pronouncing last names as it is. Like, it has to be like Thomas or something that's super easy. Other things, like, I wouldn't be able to do it. But yeah, it's probably a big deal too to these people. Like, you know, it's their last name.
It is, so. Especially if you're the bride and groom. Like, for the video, you want it said right. That wedding, the officiant didn't even say the last name. So the wedding party was pissed. At least I gave it my best try.
Yeah, see, that would be me. I'd be like, you know what, I can't pronounce this. Dan and Sarah.
Just the first name.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so what about like before you're getting hired with someone? Do you ever? I think I've seen a couple of times where you go and you meet with people before they've hired you.
Right.
So I would assume those are going to be on Monday, Thursday kind of things. Do you do a lot of those where it's like pre-wedding, or just I need to get this gig, so I need to feel the vibe out with the couple?
When it's early in your career doing that, yes. You have to put in the work and meet with people because they don't know you.
Yeah.
There's no videos, there's no like Yelp reviews yet. There's nothing like that. So you have to put in the work to meet with them. And I always tell brides and grooms, even if they're not hiring me, don't go by price range. If you find someone who's cheaper than me, that's great. Or more expensive, that's okay too if you can afford it. Go with who you are vibing with the most and disregard price, because if you're paying only a few $100s less or more, it can be all the difference. And I've seen people spend $15,000 on flowers, but they're not willing to pay enough for the MC and DJ. It's like, yo, you're going to pay for it. I'm not saying the most expensive one's always going to be the best one. Yeah. Just saying a few more or one paycheck, it'll make the difference.
Yeah, and I think, though, like, especially with the wedding, you're going to remember that vibe more than you're going to remember the flowers, you know?
Exactly.
Or, like, food, too. You'll remember good food at a party or something like that, opposed to, like, there's streamers up in... or whatever.
Exactly.
So I think that people got to look at it that way, and like you said, but
I think decent food doesn't have to be the best food. Open bar and good entertainment.
Yeah. Let's go wedding day. Well, before we get into wedding day, do you get nervous at these things? Because I would be like,
a little bit,
super nervous.
Yeah. But as of late, not at all. Almost not at all.
No.
There's the only thing that will throw me off is, my speech is pretty lazy, which is surprising to some people. And even my look, I'm not clean cut. They're like, "Oh, you're wedding MC?" I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Oh, okay." But I'm like, I love it in the past when I wasn't vlogging and coordinators, even brides, first time meeting me because they only heard of me. They never saw anything. And I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And you can tell they're in a rush or whatever. And they're like, "Oh, hi." And I was like, "Hi, I'm Mitchell, I'm the wedding MC." And they're like, you see the second they look up and down, and you're like, "Oh man, this totally judging me."
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have my suit on yet. I'm still prepping. I'm still setting up equipment. And then at the end of the wedding, it's the best when they're like, "Yo, like, that was so much fun. You're good." I was like, "Thanks." One bride, she was like, "Honestly," I was like, "Oh wow, thanks." She was like, "Honestly, when I saw you at the beginning of the wedding, I didn't think you could do this job." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "Thanks for the backhand compliment."
See, you have this style that you go. It's not traditional. Like, you're not going to go in with a tux. At least I don't see you generally on your stories going in with tuxes or anything. You have like the Mitchell style, and I think that's awesome. I do think you have those people that are going to be skeptical because they're like, you know what, this is a wedding.
Yeah.
but it goes with your vibe. And I mean, the couples know what they're doing when they hire you. Like, so I think it's good that you go in your own style and everything.
I try to be as open about it on social media too, because I want people to know exactly what they're getting into. So there's a lot of, like you see it with IG models or influencers, everything, they've taken 20 pictures and they're scheduling them for the next 20 days.
Yeah.
Me, it's in the moment, whether on stories, on post, and I was so excited after this one wedding. So this one groom, he is a DJ producer, and he did like an EDC performance before, like on one of the smaller stages, I think. Well, anyways, they wanted their wedding to be very EDM oriented, electronic dance music.
Was that the glow stick one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so wild. It was amazing. And at the end of the wedding, like I had a couple of drinks, and I was like on social media, I was like, man, this wedding was so amazing. I was like, we need more weddings where the guests take their shirts off and we get wild. It's summertime. It's hot. Let's have a good time. One bride saw it, and she hit up Rex, and she's like, I do not want Mitchell at my wedding.
Oh, I think you said something about this.
Yeah. And so I think Rex got a little scared, but I was like, hey, give me her number. I'll talk to her. I'll let her know. I'm very family oriented as well. I love working with kids, entertaining families, whatever. But he's like, nah, she's sold. She doesn't want you. So I was like, no problem. I get my oh no, I kept the deposit because, that's on her.
Yeah.
But no, I was a little sad because I was like, oh, okay. And I saw the wedding on social media. I was like, not bad. It looked good. But I was like, I know if I was there, it would have been a little better. Like, I care a lot. So when I almost amplify exactly what the bride and groom are. If they want to be wild, I'll amplify that. If you want like a lovey-dovey wedding, like just good energy, not too hype, I'll amplify that. I mean, it gives my body a break too.
Yeah.
But if you want it insane, like, let's go there. Let's have a good time.
Yeah.
But it's good that people can see that on social media and they're like, okay, he's not right for me. And that's why I put it out, so there's no surprises. And I think that's what everyone in any business should do. Don't fake who you are, because then the client will be like, wait, you look or you act like this on social media, but now you're like this.
Yeah.
I think that's very important in this industry.
It's kind of, I was going to keep going on with the day of the wedding, but it kind of brings me up to another thing. So I know, based on, I see a bunch of your stories, I see a lot of your vlogs and everything like that. I know your style, like what seems like what feels comfortable to you. Do you ever like sit with a bride or groom or whatever and be like, our vibes are just not clicking because they want to be a little bit more tame? Or is that something that you're able to do where you're like, you know what, I can adjust and be a little different than I normally am?
Yeah. It's funny. It's flattering when some brides have told me, hey, Mitchell, can you not cut your hair for my wedding? Because they're like digging it. They're like, yeah, I like your style. It's wild. And I was like, that's cool. Thanks. I've had people that are coordinators that are like friends or like other DJs are like, you should cut your hair, bro. And I'm like, nah, like I don't want to
I can't
yet.
even picture what you'd look like with your haircut. Because
you knew me in high school.
Yeah, I remember when your hair was
short
hair.
But now it's become
that,
like an extension of my character. But no, some brides have told me, they're like, Mitch, I love your energy, but can you just tone it down? Because culturally, some family members, they're a little conservative.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, no problem. So that's some of the conversations I've had.
Okay, so let's get into the wedding, like the day of the wedding. What's we kind of talked about a little bit where you're running through things, but what does a day for a wedding look like for you?
For the wedding, it's funny. It's very mental. It's psychology, man. I like to sleep as much as I can. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like the bride and groom deserve me well rested, full of energy. If I'm not feeling very well that day mentally, like I just think about what's going on and I'm like, okay, like I can deal with that later. It's about them tonight. I have to take a nice long shower. That's funny. That's just my routine.
No, I would feel that's kind of relaxing, right?
Yeah. I have to take a shower. I have to feel super clean. I have to like smell good. It's a routine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I pick out my suit and then I head to the wedding. I usually get there. The call time is when Rex is already set up and we do a sound check. So we go over and over a few times the exact time of like when I say the bride and groom's name right before the drop of a song or before the lyrics come in.
I've seen you've vlogged about this a couple of times. You don't do it all the time, but every once in a while it's like kind of a behind the scenes thing. And I find that super interesting because, again, sometimes people look at what you do or other MCs do and it's like, oh, they go out there, they wing it and everything. But like you guys are meticulous as far as like when this song drops here, this is when I need to announce it and stuff like that. And you guys practice and rehearse it right before. And
yeah,
I thought that was really, really interesting.
It's fun, man. I mean, before, I think early on, me and Rex, he'd just play the song and I would fill in that instrumental with like ad-libs and say their names. So then it became the norm. Mm-hmm. So then now we practice it. Sometimes it's an EDM song they want and they're like, Mitch, can you say our name right before this main drop? I'm like, sure. So we go over and over and over again. After that, then I just chill. I like to stretch. Sometimes I take a nap because as much as like I do like to go see the ceremonies if it's on the same site to catch a vibe of everyone, if I'm still tired for whatever reason, I take a nap. And then we get ready. And then all timelines are a little different. Mm-hmm. But basically, when it's time to line them up, I go over the names of all the wedding party, the bride and groom. Then I do an intro. So a lot of coordinators would do this to me before, like, wrap it up. Why are you taking so long? Yeah. But they didn't realize that the bride and groom hired me because I like to warm up the crowd. I like to get to know a few people, hype them up, and then go in. I've been to a wedding before where I was there as a guest and people were still at the photo booth getting drinks, and all of a sudden the DJ was MC as well. He was like, all right, parents of the bride and groom, blah blah blah, and people are like, what, we're starting? Like, I like to make it an event. Like, you know, if you're ready to party, make some noise, and then go into like talking to people. And even if someone's in the bathroom, someone's at the bar, someone's here and there, they can start getting settled to their seats. By the time it's ready for the wedding party, everyone's on the same page. And I've had some intros where I was talking with so many people, it was like 8 minutes, and then I went into the grand entrance. That's a little long. Like, I'll do like 4 or 5 minutes now.
Yeah, I think it's good because you're connecting with everyone too, though. Because I also saw one of your vlogs where you were going in and you're trying to loosen everyone up. So you picked a few people out of the crowd and brought them over to the bar.
Yeah, those two ladies.
Yeah.
They had some wine.
Yeah, and I think it's cool because everyone starts, because and when I go to weddings, sometimes I'm a little tight. And I think a lot of people are. You're self-conscious, but I've heard you say many, many times, it's like, you guys, this is a party. Like, let loose. And
let's be real. You haven't seen a lot of these family or friends for years. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm sure at your wedding, there's certain people from high school, they see each other, and it's like a high school reunion. Mm-hmm. Or like, everyone wants to put their best foot forward. I've seen this. Guys want to be the man. Mm-hmm. So they take their buddies, even though it's open bar, they'll take out a 20, tip the bartender, get us all shots. Everyone wants to be the man. And I like that. Yeah. I'm not like, bro, you're faking it. No, everyone wants to feel successful. Everyone wants to show everyone else, this is where I am in life since you last seen me. But yeah, that kind of attitude can also restrict you, where your tie's a little too tight, especially if you haven't worn ties in a long time or dressed up. And you're just like, oh man, but I want people to know this is your second home. Like, this is a club environment, whatever you want it to be, and just relax, have a good time. I've had a coordinator wave to me, like she wanted me to say something, and everyone acts as if there's this red carpet or you have to act a certain way. I'm like, oh, what do you want to tell me? And she was like, no, what are you doing? I was like, everyone, this is our coordinator. Say hi to the coordinator. And she was like, oh, and now she's on the spotlight. So I'm like, come here. What do you want? Oh, okay. Dinner's not ready yet. All good, guys. The photo booth's open. I was like, talk to me.
Yeah.
That's how at the Oscars you make mistakes and call out the wrong best picture of the year. Like, be able to like the tech guy run out. No, that's the wrong envelope, or that's the wrong thing. Like, correct people right away.
Yeah.
Feel free to correct me, you know?
So, okay. So we kind of paused at where you're getting people already, getting connected.
Mm-hmm.
I want to show you something. And I want you to explain to me where this comes from. Okay?
Okay.
So is that one of your weddings?
Okay.
All right, are you ready for the bride and groom? I said, are you ready for the bride and groom? Everyone right now, put your hands up and give it up for the newlyweds, Mr. and Mrs. William and Hannah Dean Syed. Y'all ready? Everyone to the dance floor. Put them up, put them up, put them up. 1, 2, 3, jump.
I love it. So we'll stop it right there.
I remember Hannah Dean was like screaming too.
So that's one of the things that I love. It seems like pretty much all of these, you're trying to get everyone hyped up. And again, it's not always, you can't always take control of that because, again, you're dealing with people. But where's that energy come from? Because, again, I think there's certain personalities that can do that. Me, if I did it, I feel like people would just stand there. And I'd be jumping up and down, be like, hey, everyone up, and no one would follow. But you have it, like, everyone jumping up and down. So, like,
you know, it's funny. I'm trying to sew all this together. So I saw a quote from Joaquin Phoenix today, and he said, the moment I become comfortable doing interviews or being on like talk shows is the day I lose sight of being a human being. I'm like, that's interesting. I get where he's coming from because a lot of people do it for fame. A lot of people are not very authentic when they're in that kind of setting. They're putting their best foot forward. But for me, we've talked about this in acting class too. Like, let's be honest. Everyone wants to be seen. You know, like, look at me, world. Like, I matter. People want to leave their legacy. Why do people work so hard, you know?
Yeah.
People work hard all their lives. They want to find a good soulmate. They want to have a nice home. They want to have nice things. And for me, I think there was a little bit of that growing up where I was emotional as a kid. Like, and this is just being real. Like, I was that little lover boy. Like, I wanted a Valentine. And then some girl, I'd ask a girl and then another girl. And then I was like, oh, no one wants to be my Valentine. I remember crying as a kid. I was like, if I could go back, I'm like, hey, bro, relax. But, yeah, like, I think there was a part of me, not that there was something missing in my childhood from my parents, because my mom gave me a lot of love. My dad was always at work, but, like, he showed love to us, too. But we all want to be seen. Like, look at me, world. I matter. So some people might think, oh, okay, at these weddings, Mitch makes it about him then. No, I want people, I know better. Let's just say this. When I started doing weddings, I saw a certain way it was. Rex would tell me sometimes, hey, Mitch, do this. And I was like, no, that's corny. It's like, people like corny. I was like, no, people don't know better. It's almost like Steve Jobs making his products. People don't know what they want. But, like, if you make it, then they realize, wow, I've always needed this my whole life. So what I try to do at the weddings is make the bride and groom centerpiece. And, like, yeah, if I'm feeling good and if I'm looking good, feeling good, that's contagious. So I want everyone to be on my level, and I see where the energy has to be brought up. I see where the energy is, and okay, let's magnify that. And it just, I don't know how to explain it, man. It is a part of, like, look at me, world. but I've also been fortunate enough to find out what I'm pretty good at.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I wasn't good at this and I was forcing that, it wouldn't be authentic. Yeah. I don't know if that like explains
Yeah,
it.
that does.
But also, I've worked at a cemetery. So like seeing death and like doing weddings now, it's the spectrum, man. It's like the end of life.
Circle of life.
And weddings are the beginning of life with like, it's basically getting married, beginning a family, you know, not always in that order, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I lost my mom to cancer 8 years ago. And I just feel like a lot of people, we kind of do have to go through a tragedy to understand, wow, life is so short. Life is fleeting.
Mm-hmm.
Make the best of it right now. There's so many people at a wedding that look bored. I'm like, wow, you're bored at work or you hate your job. Why would you act like that at a wedding where you're off work? They feel like it's a chore to like, okay, we have to fly in or drive from out of town. But it's like people are plugged into that state of mind all week that they're a prisoner sometimes. And finally, when they get the freedom, they don't know what to do with it. So right away, from 0 to 100, I try to make people realize, no, you deserve the best life. You deserve to have a good time because this wedding's done in 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
And then you can go back to your boring life if it's that on Monday.
Yeah.
But you owe it to yourself.
You also say like, you know, if you're not gonna have a good time for yourself, have a good time for this couple because it's their special day and like you're making it that special day. So
2 weeks ago, now I talked about my mom, this bride, first bride I've ever had in 6 years that she's battling cancer. And halfway through the wedding, I looked at Rex and I was like, Rex, it should always be like this. But not all weddings have them going through an illness.
yeah.
You could tell everyone was checked in because the reality is you don't know what's going to be the outcome.
Yeah.
She's fighting, she's winning, but you don't know what the outcome's going to be. So let's all have this memory. There was a lot of tears during the toast, but everyone was checked in. Everyone was celebrating. There was the best garter removal and toss. Like the bouquet was crazy because they knew this is a special moment. This is another day she's alive. She gets to enjoy.
Yeah.
But when everyone's normal and no illness, you just see they take it for granted. So they're like, okay, I showed face. I'm going to leave early. That wedding, a bunch of people stayed. It was so hype. And I said, it should always be like this. Like, I'm always aware of that. It should always be like this. But for some people, they just need that little extra you know?
So let's kind of pick it up. So we gone kind of from your morning to arriving the wedding.
Lining up,
saying the party.
Grand entrance.
So that part's over. It's probably one of your biggest parts is that grand entrance. What's the rest of the night look like?
The rest of the night, I'm just basically, it's like introducing everything. So if it's a prayer or a welcome speech from the parents or the bride and groom, then it goes to dinner. That's like a 45-minute break. We get to eat. Then it goes into toast. And then it can be cake cutting, bouquet toss, garter toss.
So you're on the itinerary basically as far as just
the first dance is usually right after the grand entrance.
Okay.
But some people have it other places. And then you have like the mother-son dance, father-daughter dance, group photo, and then you go into dancing.
Okay.
And then we turn it into a club. But there's always I don't like wasting energy or having dead air. So it's like, okay, we're done with dinner way early. Let's keep the night pushing. So a good coordinator will be like, yeah, let's go. Let's keep the night moving. Sometimes photographers and videographers have to leave early. That's another thing. Always let your videographers and photographers know, I'm moving forward. You guys ready? You have your lights up, all that. But
okay. So that's pretty much the day then.
Yeah,
right?
dancing and all that. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to kind of transition this into a little bit different, more pertinent to the job itself. So let's talk about the pros and cons of what you do for a living. So you're basically your own boss now. We've talked about this too, where before you and you could say DJ Rex or what, you guys were kind of bound together.
Yes.
Then recently now you're basically your own boss.
Yes.
So you sign contracts individually and you still work with Rex and everything like that. So you're an independent contractor. You work for yourself. What's the pros of going into this type of career?
The pros is that you can name your price, but you have to be a little established. I get that. But like if you're doing well in your first couple years and you see the business coming in, yes, start naming your price. That's very important. If you're in a partnership or in a group of DJs or MCs, I think when you're starting off, of course, everyone is going to have to invest money into the business, maybe promoting yourself on Instagram ads or like, you know, business cards and all that, stickers, whatever. But you have to write out and communicate exactly what everyone's getting. And then as you grow, like, okay, we're going to see where we're at in a year or two, and then start communicating exactly like, okay, if we are doing well and getting more gigs, then we're each going to get more money. So I think that's important. But when you're by yourself, I think it's very important not to overcharge your clients, even if you're doing well, but a fair rate.
Yeah.
And I get it. There's some people who still can't afford that. But then the reality is, man, with Instagram, you see people's lifestyles and you're kind of like, yeah, I think you can.
Yeah.
Unless they're just giving out a perception of being more successful. But
which happens all the time.
Exactly. But I've seen when I wasn't getting paid as much for weddings, I've seen how much people spend on flowers and the venue and all that. And I'm like, wow, I'm not going to give you guys a few $100 performance. I'm going to give you all of me as if you're paying me a lot of money. So when I started seeing that reciprocation from brides and grooms of like how well I was doing, I was like, yeah, I have to work for myself now and get paid more. So that's one thing that I tell everyone is like, really, they're not going to trust someone else's word all the time. You have to show some clips on Instagram or something of exactly what you do. So they're like, okay, that is a fair rate to pay you. Like, I want you.
Yeah. I would look, one of the biggest things that I see, I guess it could be a pro or con. I don't know how you would feel about it, but like I work 9 to 5, you know, I work Monday through Friday. And then I have my Saturday, Sundays off, which is good for me. But when I look at you, weddings aren't generally on Mondays, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. No. Maybe exceptions. And then there's holidays and stuff like that where you could have them on there. But is that a perk? Is the fact that your main time that you're working is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which is three days opposed to 5 days?
You have to motivate yourself, because when you have a boss or someone overlooking you, whether you're having a bad day or not, you have to keep on pushing, right? And you have deadlines. But when you have Monday through Thursday free, it's like vacation. But you have to respond to your emails. You have to respond to your Instagram. A lot of my wedding business closes are done on Instagram, not even on email. So respond to everyone, get back to them on time. But yeah, there's a lot of pros because I get to spend my days as I want them. You know, like during the week, I can travel if I want. I can go to Joshua Tree if I want. I can do something else fun. Now the cons is, let's see.
Could that be a con though too? Because like you said you did about 60 weddings this year, so. So traveling on the weekends is probably not something that you can do. You know,
being my own boss and like doing 60 weddings, it's been tiring. It's taken a lot of toll on me. I think this year making my own contracts, vlogging all my weddings, it's been one of the most tiring years of my life. Yeah. I ended up in the ER like 2 months ago, just like a panic attack.
Jeez.
Yeah, and then
It's not like you can just, like I can go, hey, I need to take a week off.
exactly.
If
Yeah.
you've agreed to a wedding, it's kind of almost impossible to tell them like, oh, you know what, I can't make it this day.
There's some weeks I'm so exhausted, and I was like, wow, I have 3 weddings this weekend.
Yeah. So cons on the job, not too much time to take vacation. Anything else that you have, like, that you could think of going in? Like, if someone were to go into this career, they've never done it before.
Yeah, it's tough to ask off when you need to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's say I've had an incident where my girlfriend's sister was getting married, and there was 2 or 3 MCs I had for the bride to choose from,
Mm-hmm.
but she was not having it. I was like, I'll give you back your deposit. This guy I actually found, he's cheaper. Like, I'll help train him. And she did not want him. And I had to make a new contract where I was like, okay, not only emergencies, but like personal things. Because everyone, Monday through Friday, if you have vacation, a lot of time or sick days, you can ask off.
Yeah.
Mine, they're hiring a product.
Yeah.
Like, I am a product. Like,
It's a special day too, so it's like
it's flattering too,
Yeah.
but it's very tough when, like, I have my own personal life. I wanted to go to my girlfriend's sister's wedding, and I got with my girlfriend like a little over a year ago, and at the time she already saw me with her. She felt like it was too early in the relationship to be like, hey, you want to come to my sister's wedding? And I was like, about it scared me away.
Yeah.
But then I was like, damn, why didn't you ask me? I just booked this like less than a month ago.
Yeah.
So by the time she told me that, I was like, So I was like, you know what? I'll get off. And yeah, it created friction with my partner, like with Rex.
Yeah.
Like, understandably. Like, I was like, I understand. But I also have my own personal life.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is very important to me.
Yeah, you're battling like that commitment to what you said you'd do
Yeah.
versus like you're a human being too.
Like,
you
if
know?
I had a kid, I get it. There's people like Kobe, Mamba mentality that would have never missed something because he had a game.
Yeah.
But also, I lost my mom. So it's like there was like a new promise to myself that I wasn't going to miss family events or like important things because life goes on. Life happens. Work will always be there. But yeah, I ended up doing the wedding. I was a little upset. I felt like I had a great conversation with the bride. That conversation actually made me feel more connected to her. And I was like, you know what? I want to be there now.
Yeah.
But that is something where I had to talk to the bride. Before I talked to the bride, I talked to the groom. I was like, look, listen, man, I know the reality. Maybe I break up with my girlfriend. And I'm like, okay, I'm glad I took the wedding. Or maybe I end up marrying the girl and I'm like regretting it that I was never at her sister's wedding.
Yeah.
So those kind of thoughts come up in my mind. That was going to be the only wedding I would have ever missed. Up until this day, I've never missed one.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
What about so like again, I work for a bigger company and I know every 2 weeks I get paid this. It's kind of the security there,
Right.
You're your own boss. So when economy is good, things are good, but people are always getting married. Is that something that people have to look into? Like, okay, if I want to be an MC, is there stress that goes into that being like, okay, am I going to be able to have a constant paycheck all the time?
Yeah. You see, I had a platform. I was at a radio station. So that was lucky. But if you don't have that platform and you don't have any content to show for it, it's going to be very hard to even get a deposit, or they're going to keep on asking you to go lower, lower, lower. But right now I'm at a flow where it's like I get a deposit, and even if I'm not booking enough now, I see the calendar for like into 2021. I have like 4 weddings in 2021 already.
It's 2 years out.
Yeah.
So is that something?
So I know for a fact, like, okay, most likely they're not going to cancel. But even if they do cancel, I get to keep the deposit. But when that wedding comes around, I know that money's coming around too. So that's where the security is. But for people in this game, there's a few DJs and MCs I know that they're starting to phase out. You gotta have something else stable if you're used to like having this sort of like income of being an MC or a DJ. But yeah, are there times where it's like a little cold where people aren't booking enough? And I'm like, oh, you know, there are some times like that, but Christmas is just about here in a week. A lot of people propose on Christmas.
Yeah.
And a lot of people also propose on Valentine's Day. That's where a lot more inquiries will be coming in. So what am I going to be doing in the next couple weeks and into the new year? I'm going to start. I haven't put any of my vlogs on IGTV. I'm going to start doing that.
Okay.
So people can see, and they're like, you got to stay on people's minds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How far out do you book? Like, is there like a limit where you're like, I don't want to book 3 years out? Or
I'll
4?
book 3 years out.
You will? Okay. So
I
for
will.
you, it doesn't matter.
The only thing is like this next year, I want to get more into acting again. And if I book a Netflix thing or a commercial, I have a lot of friends that book commercials. Commercials pays 15 to 20K. Am I going to miss a wedding, or am I not going to miss a wedding that's paying me this price, or like the Netflix or the commercial? Yeah, I'll take the commercial. And yeah, the bride and groom are understanding, and they know I have dreams. They'll support it.
Okay, let's talk. We don't have to be specific with this as far as like as it pertains to you, but like a lot of people that are going into a career, so they're looking at, oh, you know what Mitchell does looks fun. I want to do that. I feel like I have the personality to do that. The main thing people are going to look at is like, what could they look to make? So I want you, based on your experience, tell me kind of where someone could start off, because I've heard the term fee to free or free to fee,
right?
Which I think is a good thing. You got to be careful though on that. So kind of bring us into what you've seen where someone's just starting out, what they should charge, to someone that's maybe done like 50 weddings. So they're not a rookie anymore. And then someone that's a professional. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be open. I'll tell what I've made, what I'm making now. So like, if you're starting and you're not working at a radio station, you don't have any experience, yeah, ask some DJs, like, I would like to assist you to help set up your equipment and maybe watch. Do that first. Watch a lot of YouTube videos. You know, when you're young, you copy. Like, yeah, did I copy some on-air jocks that I worked with, like their style, or like Felly Fell? I love his energy. Big Boy, Rick D's, like a lot of people I worked with. But even then, there was that energy in me where I was just like hopping on walls and hopping on, like at the basketball games, on tables, and just high energy. But you see, I had a radio station where I could tell brides and grooms, this is where I worked at. So beginning rate when I was out of power and doing weddings, I was getting paid like 200, 300, which I look back,
You could have charged more. Or?
Should have been at least, very least 500.
But that's with someone that I feel like you have the experience to go out, and even though you weren't doing weddings, you were doing events,
all
right?
kinds of events.
So you have some type of experience. So 200, 300, 500, that's where you could have been charging right there.
Yeah.
Someone just, like, let's say they're just getting into the game and they're just,
you got to do for free in terms of like, let's help a DJ so you can just watch. Now, if you get a gig with a DJ and you're young, like, the thing is, I was doing like $100 for a club.
Yeah.
Like when I began, but for a wedding, there is stress. There's a lot of stakes, and I feel like if you charge too little, you're gonna be like, okay, whatever, I can f up a little more. Yeah, you're gonna f up if you're new.
It's a special day though.
But for the stress and having to talk to the bride and groom, and sometimes you have to go meet with them. They don't get you like at least a free cup of coffee if you meet, or a meal.
Yeah.
They're not paying for your gas. You have to go out there. I'd say at least 200. And
even on your first one,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because it gives you some accountability.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's like there's a club.
Mm-hmm.
This is the biggest thing with clubs and promoters, right? If the club is free all night, okay, we're going in and out. Like the club sucks, we're leaving.
Yeah.
If you have to pay $20 to go in, and even if the club's like, okay, you're going to stay there longer because it holds you like, we already spent money to come in here.
Yeah.
I mean, the drinks aren't bad. The vibe's not too bad. We'll stay here. If you pay someone that amount of money, you know they're going to work harder too.
It's a responsibility at that
And
point.
I was getting 200, 250 when I had all that experience 7 years at the radio station. So with me, even more so, my first wedding was great. It was great.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're starting off, I'd say 100 if you're really trying to build a relationship, 150, 200, and it'll hold you accountable. Then, as I'd say a year later, man, once you have that under your belt,
You probably have stuff to show too at that point too.
Exactly.
It's super important probably to have the social media aspect.
start gauging, let people decide.
Yeah.
Like, let the bride and groom decide. If you say 500 and they say no and you're getting like 20 no's,
Mhm.
okay, maybe your content online, you're not there yet.
Yeah.
300, 400. But don't let 4 years go by. Like, people graduate high school, college in 4 years. You should be able to get a lot more higher by that time if you've put in the work in growth talent. I take acting classes.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that helps.
Okay.
So something else besides just your day job and hosting, do something that'll maybe take an improv class that'll help you on a microphone.
Yeah.
You know?
Anything with speech or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would look at it if you did the free to fee or something like that, or charge lower. You're sacrificing in the short term, but I bet you a bunch of your business comes from, oh, you know what? I saw Mitchell at this wedding. I want that guy here. So it's almost like you're investing into your ad, basically. Like you're performing for other people too, your other clients, your potential clients. So I could see charging a lesser amount in the beginning.
Right.
Plus, it does give you a little bit of latitude because you get what you pay for too, right?
Exactly.
So like the expectation should be from bride and groom. Okay, if I'm paying this person $100, I understand what I'm getting into. They should still take it seriously because this is them getting better.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now you've done it for about a year, like you said, and you're about to graduate or get to this next level where you know what you're doing now.
Right.
But you're still learning. I
Yeah.
guess you're always learning, but I wouldn't consider you a new person to this type of industry. What would that look like then?
That's tough because it's almost easier to go backwards too. Like right now I'll charge $1,000 for a wedding, and if it's like in the OC or something, I'll probably add on like another 100 just for mileage and like the distance. If it's in San Francisco, Santa Barbara, San Diego, I'll probably do like 1,200 to get a cheap hotel room, gas, mileage, all that. But my flat rate is 1,000. So if it's in LA, I'll do
that's
1,000.
now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's now. Now, you see where it hurts you, your past, if you weren't smart enough to charge more, even though you started knowing your worth or your value and what you should have charged. I had 2 couples this year say, but Mitch, you charged $400 for my sister's wedding. You charged $400 for this. I'm like, well, no, I was in a package deal at the time. But this is my rate. The cool thing is now, I think some people have the respect to where they're like, you know what, that's a little out of my rate. I knew you would charge less before, but thanks anyways. I'm like, thank you. Sure enough, like 2-3 months later, they're like, we looked at other MCs, they like charge less, but we want to go with you after all.
Yeah.
So when you know your worth and you're consistent, you're not always giving like a discount or something like that. People, they're like, yeah, I see it now. Like he brings out this energy in a wedding that I haven't seen before. So that's why he does what he does, and he's worth that amount. David, I think about it all the time. I'm like, wow, there's movie stars that get paid 20 million for a movie. People, rappers, they get paid $100,000 for a club or a concert if you're like a Drake or whatever. And you're like, how did they get there? Like, there could be easily a street performer who's rapping too, but how did they get there? Because they're creating an environment that someone else isn't able to do, you know?
Yeah.
So I see it that way, and in the big picture of things, I'm like, 1,000 isn't a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm not already thinking like, oh, I should be charging 2,000. But I did do a wedding last month in Washington. The coordinator said, sweetie, we don't have anyone like you out here in Seattle and Everett. She's like, how much do you charge? And I was like, 1,000. She's like, you should be charging 3 times that amount. But the thing is, you have Bill Gates out there, you have Jeff Bezos out there, you have that tech money out there. And yeah, if I was living out there, I could be charging that much because just the culture out there, those tech guys, they got a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I do video and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they always talk about, like ask people budget sometimes. Because if you give your rate, sometimes you don't get paid what you could be paid. Because there's been times where I've heard like videographers where they go to a wedding thing and they're like, they ask them how much you charge. I charge 1,000, and they're like, oh, we were willing to pay 2,000. And like in your head, you're like, oh, why did I say that?
Yeah.
But again, too, I think part of it's like, you know what you're worth, and you also like this. You maybe looked at the numbers and say, this is going to guarantee me that I have clientele past it. I think graduating probably goes to the point of, you know, I have too much work. And now in order for me to like scale back, I got to charge a little bit more.
Charge more and do less, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you ever look at it that way?
You know, I realize that I am getting a little older, and jumping off tables, stages, stuff like that at a wedding isn't ideal because I'm just like injuring my body. Like I've rolled ankles and, you know, hurt myself, fallen a few times. There was a weak stage, my leg went right through it. That's the venue's fault, you know? Like, gosh, like imagine if it was the bride or groom.
Yeah.
That would have been worse. But yeah, man, longevity. I realize there's always going to be someone new like me who has that drive. And that's where a little bit of the regret happens when you go back to like year 1, year 2, where I could have been, okay, year 1, I didn't have power anymore. It was an opportunity. Thank God. Year 2, okay, I was good. But definitely my year 3, I could have been making what I am now. But at the time, I still had a young mentality where I was like, this is cool. Free drinks, free food. You know, sometimes you get a date out of it. But no, I look back, I'm like, man, could have been making that much and not suffering. So I think it's very important. Even if you have a partnership, like know when you have the leverage where you can walk away and do it yourself or continue booking on yourself. But with that person, and asking for your rate. Always be in control of your own rate. Yeah. And year 3.
So you're in year 3 right now.
No, I'm in year 6.
Okay.
So the past 3-4 years, I could have been making what I am this year.
So we'll say gross about 60,000 then that you would take home from working the weekends, the weekend weddings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But that started this year. Okay. So there's still weddings where I'm still you're getting
basically
less.
You agreed to this price. And
but that's 2020 and now I'm getting paid finally my rate. But let's just say,
that's where. Okay. Couple other things. Then, so again, going back to me, and I work for a company. I don't have to really worry about benefits too much because it's like, okay, you know what? They take it out of my paycheck, discounted rate, all that kind of stuff. How do you look at like, okay, I need to get medical, I need to get dental, I need to get, because we have to have insurance, otherwise you get a little penalty. How hard is it to do that?
You know, you definitely have to take care of that all by yourself, you know, and then it's tough. Like, but the thing is, David, it's all relative, right? So there's a lot of actors or entertainers that are from out of town, and they're like, oh my gosh, LA's so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I gotta move back home. But to me, I've grown up out here.
Yeah.
So the expenses are normal to me. I don't know any better. I mean, you see it. It's like, okay, at least it's not San Francisco prices or New York.
But you know what you get out
I
here for
know
the
what I
prices. So it's
get.
not like a shock value or anything like that.
It isn't. So maybe I am someone who kind of lives in the moment, who, I'll be honest, I don't save that much, but I know there's a lot of people who are on a 9 to 5 that make a lot more than me, and they're not as happy.
Yeah.
Or they're always like, oh my gosh, like I gotta do this and that and that. And I'm like, well, I'm also doing that, but I'm enjoying myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, like, I remember when I didn't know what I wanted to do when I came out of high school. I had no idea. I went to college and I just went to school because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. And all I knew was I was like, I want to wear a suit, because that in my head generated the fact that I was going to make success and money. And like, that's all I cared about. And I remember telling Mark over here, like when we first met, like, oh, I just want money. I just want more money. I don't care what the job is. I just want to make more money. And then you get to a point and you start making money. And like you said, you're not happy.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just start thinking, money's not everything. So there's different things. And I think like the fact, like, if you make enough to survive and you can still do the things that you want to do and you live life, I think there's something to be said about that. Like, and everyone's different, because there are some people that it's like money's the only thing. That's all I want.
Yeah.
I want to have money. But I do think, like you said, it's all relative to what you're looking to do. If this suits my life, I get more time, I can survive, I have a good time every day, I like what I do, that's super important.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like, as being as real as possible, I guess, like, wanting more money in a partnership definitely hurt a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, I feel like when you're an MC DJ combination, which is becoming the norm for all weddings, and if you're like the one in the front speaking to the audience and providing like a certain energy, all I wanted was to better my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But talking about money, man, it's like when I was getting less money, those were some of the best times.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some of the best weddings, because you're not really concerned with that.
Yeah.
But also, someone may be benefiting from you as well by not paying you as much, right?
Yeah.
If it's like a lump sum for an MC DJ. So when I look back at times when Rex and I were getting paid together, those are some of the best weddings.
Yeah.
Maybe I was getting $200, $300, but amazing weddings. Now when it's business, sometimes like you see boy bands, you're like, why did they break up? They had it all. Nah, man, like, it's not even I don't know how to say this. It's not greed or anything. It's just, I love Friends. The last season or whatever of Friends.
Oh, the
show.
So they all took the same,
They're like no one's higher or lower. We're all getting $1 million because they knew their worth, and they're like, we all deserve it for ourselves and for each other.
I think they're like the first group to ever do something like that.
Do like that. And I've always, this is my advice to MCs and DJs out there. If you're in a group package, you can actually get paid more together in a lump sum versus separate. Now, I don't know what Rex charges now, but when we tell brides and grooms these two prices, they're like, you know what, Mitch? You actually provide a little more energy. So we're going to go with you, and we're going to go with a cheaper DJ. But I've always told Rex, I was like, together, if we charge $3,000, $3,500, $4,000, they don't know any better. Not that they don't know better, not disrespecting clients. What I mean is they just think, okay, cool. We get 2 for 1 price. So that's my mentality. So if you're by yourself, know when to up your price, or when you're in a group, know when to up your price, because you can actually get more when there's 2 people together.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyone looking to get into this industry, say they're like, you know what, I don't like this 9 to 5 that I'm doing. This looks really fun. I have the personality to do this. I get to be part of someone's special day. I guess it's kind of a two-part thing. How would you suggest they go about getting into the business of being an MC?
I see. So, well, going back to this podcast, that's what you're kind of trying to get people to think about, right?
I want people to understand that, bringing back to what you said, it's all relative. You know, what makes me happy might not make you happy, and vice versa. So the jobs that we have, like, we have such a short amount of time in life.
We do.
If you could do something that you enjoy doing and you can survive doing it, I think that's like the ideal thing, because we spend so much time at work. I spend so much time at work. I finally get to do something that I want to do, and it took like 15 years for me to figure it out, but I finally get to do it. But there's different pros and cons to everything that you do. So I could make less money and be happy because I'm doing something that I really enjoy. It's my passion, all that kind of stuff. And the jobs that we're talking about, anytime someone comes in, I want people to have an understanding. You know what? I always thought being an MC was cool. But what does it really entail? You know? So if they're looking to get into it, they're like, you know what, I'm not what I want to do. Or maybe they're just getting into, maybe they graduated high school and this is something they want to do. How should they start by getting into this type of industry?
I feel like if you have I don't know, you know how, like a speech class at high school or college, when you can actually choose where to put your units, and it's an English class, take that. Like, a lot of people, let's be real, college isn't for everyone.
Yeah, 100% agree.
But you can, what would I do when I would listen to the radio before? When I first started working at the radio station, I would turn it up. Whatever the jock would say, I would repeat it right away, how they said it. Commercials, I would repeat the commercials all the time. I think it's really good when, I've always been more of a beats guy when it comes to music, but people who can really do karaoke well or rap songs well in their car just for fun, like, you have an edge over other people who, the gift of the gab, you have motor skills are running.
Yeah.
Read. You have to read. I noticed, like, there was 3 years ago when I was like, I'm going to read a book a week. I didn't quite hit the mark, but I was pretty consistent, whether it was a play or a thicker book, and the way I would interact with people, it exponentially went up. You have to exercise your brain. You know, some people are like, okay, I've always been the center of attention. I'm loud, I'm fun. But if you don't know how to formulate your what you're thinking to come out here, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
A lot of the great moments I've had at weddings is just improv, like interacting with people and always studying certain things, like looking at brides and grooms' Instagrams, catching their vibe. I remember I memorized the groom's, not consciously, but I memorized his bio, and I brought up his bio to everyone in the audience, and they were like, what? And I was like, that's so random. I just blurted it out, and they were laughing because a lot of his friends knew what his bio said. You see that? We talked about it in an acting class before. It's important to have a smart mind too. You know, just, and I don't feel like I'm that smart, but I try to know what's going on in social media, pop culture, not so much politics, because that's not something I'm going to talk about at weddings.
Yeah.
I just try to be fun, the same way LeBron James can still relate to a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
DJ Khaled can relate to a 14-year-old. And these are grown men. DJ Khaled's like 45, almost 50, but he still relates. Now, when I think about myself, I'm 34. I'm like LeBron's age. You see, I'm like, wow, am I making as much money as LeBron? No, I'm not.
Yeah.
But that's in the big picture. If you have a talent, he got it.
Yeah.
I feel like longevity, I have 5 to 10 years maybe left in weddings. Before, I'm not relatable to a 25-year-old bride or groom. You know, you have to think about that.
So, okay, I have one question before that, but because you brought that up. Okay, so what would be next then? So like if you feel like you have about 10 more years, so I'm guessing you're saying that the shelf life for MC is like 44, 45. You don't want to be too much older than that.
As much as like I could do research, man, like yeah, there's comes a point where you don't relate as much to their mentality.
Yeah.
They could be your son or daughter. Like if I had a kid when I was like 17, then maybe I'll have a 20, 25-year-old bride as a daughter. You know, I mean, I could technically become, if I evolve, I could be like, oh, that's the cool uncle that does weddings still. But no, like it takes a toll on my body jumping around. Yeah. You know?
So is there a path after this? Or that you know? Or are you just going to be open?
I've seen some guys who warm up crowds who are older for like TV shows before that they actually start. Mm-hmm. Who knows if I get into comedy? My goal is acting. Yeah. But like not like it could be whatever genre, drama or whatever, but I think that's next for me. Okay. But I know it's a hard pathway as well. So this is my anchor of like consistent cash flow, and maybe in the next 5 years we'll see what happens.
Okay. Okay, last question I got for you. Someone that's looking to get in there, you've done it now. You said 6 years you've done this. And they're like on the fence. They're like, you know what? I'm doing this other job, and but I really want to try this out. Would you suggest doing it?
Yeah, it's a weekend gig. You know, you can still have your job during the week. There's DJs that have their 9 to 5, and they do this on the weekends, and that's good. They're having 2 sources of income. But yeah, I don't know. I've had conversations with my brother before where I don't feel like I always fit in to a 9 to 5 or work because I just work differently. Sometimes I want to be left alone, even though that is weddings are very involved in someone's personal life. But it's
so you'd recommend it though.
I'd recommend it, man. I love it.
Cool.
I love it, man. I love it.
Well, I love the fact that you love it. I love your energy. Everything is good.
I think that's why I'm good at it, because you have to care first. It just can't be because of the money.
Yeah. Anything that you wanted to share that I maybe forgot to touch on?
No, I think we got it all, man. I just, my I'm in a short film coming out January 3rd.
Cool.
I have like one line in it, but it's gonna be it's a really cool short film. It's called Got Game.
Where's it gonna be held?
I don't know where the premiere is because I'm not familiar with the director and all that, but I got put into it. I was fortunate enough. I think it's gonna get some good traction. But I am in an independent feature film coming out early next year as well, and that filmed late last year, 2018. It's finally coming out. This is my first bigger one. It's a pretty good substantial role.
Do you know what it's called?
It's called The Uncanny. It's a horror film.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I have to take a look. Kind of. You have to let us know when that happens.
It's exciting. So now that I'm guessing both are going to be in a film festival circuit. Mm-hmm. It's good for me to start auditioning more and getting out there, because then people are like, oh yeah, I've seen that guy or whatever. So that's what's next for me.
Very cool. Okay. Shout your stuff out. Where can people find you?
YouTube, Mitchell DeGuzman, at Mitchell DeGuzman on Instagram. I think I might get on the TikTok soon.
I haven't figured that one out yet. Instagram is like my main thing.
Yeah. I love Instagram.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Follow Mitchell. Really good follow. Always has stuff on his stories, and you give tips too on weddings and stuff. Like you'll tell people about like parking situations, venues, all that kind of stuff.
You're planning your wedding. Yeah, exactly. All of that on the YouTube. On the Instagram, it's a lot more entertaining. Yeah. Like I point out funny stuff happening at weddings. It's fun.
Yes, that's good. Okay, cool. Well, thanks again for joining me. I appreciate it coming on. Really good guest.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
That'll be it. So tune in next time. Don't know who we're going to have on next, but it should be fun. And again, thanks to Mitchell for coming on.